So, welcome everyone to today's edition of Cyber Straight Talk. So, I'm Linda Zecker, along with my co host, Catherine Mihalik. So, today we are very excited to have Brook Colangelo joining the conversation. So, we have known Brook for a very long time, and he's always fun to speak with, and he's definitely very, very interesting. So, with that, Brook, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. It's great to see you.
Yeah,
It's great
great
to
to
be
see you
here.
too. So, before we jump into really our cyber discussion and the reason we're here, why don't you take a minute and give the audience a little background of what you've been up to? Because you've got some really interesting, some past activities.
Sure. So back in the early 2000s, I would say I am a mission-driven IT leader. I worked on various organizations all throughout DC, and then around 2008, I was the CIO for the Democratic National Convention Committee, and then shortly thereafter, helped run the IT for the presidential transition, and then CIO for President Obama and for the White House for the first 4 years. So if you recall way back when, I actually delivered the president's BlackBerry to him. I left the White House because this brilliant CEO named Linda Zecker recruited me to leave DC, and I spent just over 5 years at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt as we transitioned a book publisher to a digital media company and a platform company. And then I left HMH and joined Waters Corporation as CIO and running a digital transformation. Waters, we make scientific equipment that helps measure both helps the advancement of science throughout the world. And I also sit on two boards. I sit on the board of Somos, which runs the North American Number Exchange on behalf of the FCC, and ISO New England, that runs the power grid for the six New England states.
If I remember correctly, we had this clandestine meeting at National
Yes.
Airport because you were still at the White House and I was still at Microsoft. And we had this clandestine, we couldn't tell anyone. And we were like, hi, hi.
But every time I walk through National Airport where we met, I am reminded of that and that journey that began then.
No, well, okay. So from the CIO of the White House to Waters Corporation, how do you believe IT managers and boards are evolving their thinking about cybersecurity? I mean, since the threat environment is quickly changing, and now with the rapid deployment of new AI technology, it's just, off the charts. So what
Yeah.
do you think people are thinking about from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two boards that I sit on, we have a very active conversation. In one case, we actually have a cyber and IT committee. I actually helped form it. We went through a journey of looking at and seeing if we needed it, and then ultimately came to that decision as a board. My other board I sit on has a risk committee where cyber and IT roll up into that. I mean, I think overall, given the amount of money that we're spending and given the risk, like any other risk to an enterprise, I believe the boards need to be looking at this. I know I have a very active conversation at Waters with our board on technology and technology strategy and technology risk as well. So I think it's a very important conversation, and I think similar to how accounting standards have come up, since Sarbanes-Oxley and those changes in laws, I think cyber and IT oversight are also sort of becoming not sort of a new subject, but an important subject that boards have to devote time to.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, so when you guys were talking, it brought back a memory for me. And Brooke, you were ahead of your time because I remember when you installed this program on our email. And matter of fact, Lynn and I just did a little post about this phishing
Yeah.
this last week. And I don't know I can't remember what the name of it was, but what happened was is that when you got an email, there was a little warning label at the top, and
Yeah.
it's this email's from the outside, double check. And that was such a key learning and as I was and Lynn and I were putting up our post about phishing and how it's still the um,
Number one attack vector,
number one
right?
attack vector. I remembered you, so I was excited to talk to you today because I wanted to say thank you for that because it makes my email hygiene impeccable now. Because I hover,
Right?
right? I hover and I look. So anyway, so thanks for that because it and you were a pleasant memory this week when I was putting that together. Um, you talked about in one of your current roles as a board member, you decided to set up those two separate committees. Was there one particular thing that you guys went, oh yeah, this is it, we have to do it because of this? Or was it just the multitude of all of the issues coming together?
I think, I'll talk specifically about ISO New England, where we created the cyber and IT committee. There was a really distinct moment, and it was, we had cyber and IT oversight in the audit committee, but the audit committee's agenda is just action packed. And we found, as we pushed back and we looked at the organization, it was one brilliant director, not me, who said to me, when I look at this organization, it really has several things. It has people, it has buildings, and then it has IT systems that run the power grid. And so we need to have the right protections and oversights to do that. And I think, so I think that, was the impetus for us to create this committee and to focus on the transformation and the digital journey of ISO New England.
I
Yeah,
think one of the interesting things too, Brooke, is that, we were just talking about fishing a second ago, but there are a lot of companies out there, of which I sat on the board of one, that they're not a technology company. So therefore, they believe that cyber is not really something they have to worry about. And they think that, well, cyber is just, it's really something more of the IT shop will deal with, or you don't have to deal with it all because we're not an IT company or we're not a technology company. But yet, when you talk about phishing being the number one issue, and the number one way that bad actors really get into your system, you don't have to be an IT company to have that. You can be a company that
No.
makes paper. It doesn't matter what you do. It can impact everybody.
yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right about that. And I mean, I think, look, since Shields Up, when the government put Shields Up in 2021, 2022, I think, we have just seen this massive ramp in ransomware, and you can't find an article out there that you don't see this on a daily basis. I read, and I recommend to your listeners and viewers, I love the Wall Street Journal cybersecurity journal on it's a daily basis, and I think it really speaks in business terms to what's happening in the world in terms of cyber. And so, there's a hack at Jaguar Land Rover right now, and they've been out of production for several weeks. I just feel for those folks
That's so
in
terrible.
going through it. And I think you're right. It's still that hygiene about how are you doing with email and phishing, and are you doing phishing tests and you're reporting that up, and is the board looking at that?
And so I have another little quick follow on, and that's when you talk about um, the other board where it's cyber and risk together. Risk is it can be really heavy audit oriented. How are you making sure that you're really looking at that? Because, they say cybersecurity, I think everybody agrees. Cybersecurity is a business issue, right? Look at
It
land,
is.
right? It is absolutely a business issue. So, how do you make sure that that stays on point so that it doesn't become so risk audit kind of heavy, that it's
Yeah.
cyber risk, business risk.
I
That's
think, and so that's the lens that we look at it through on Somos is business risk and the enterprise and the risk to the organization. And I think that looks in many forms, but cyber is a constant and continual conversation that we have. And cyber is it's it's how you design your charters, it's how you make your schedule. So we always ensure that there is cyber oversight, and it's also a risk in the risk dashboard that we look at on our regular meetings. to be tracking where things are. And so I think it's making sure that you're talking about it in business terms and that making sure that it is a part of focus. If it's sitting in the audit committee, it still just means to make sure that you have time in the agenda for it. We have it in the risk committee or in the IT cyber committee. And so those are the places that we really focus on. And the other thing that I'll just add is what we do at ISO New England is we always do a deep dive on cyber topics once a year. And so we take the team, we take the board through a heavy topic in education and understanding if it's ransomware or what's happening or how AI is affecting this so that we can ensure that there's ongoing education and that, if you're not a cybersecurity expert, you're still staying informed and getting educated.
I really have two questions for you. Let's follow up to that. Number one is when you think about AI and you think about all the things that are going on there, I think people actually sort of almost lump AI and cybersecurity into separate buckets, where I think the overlap is just tremendous. So,
It's
kind of, how do you
tremendous.
think about that? And then, kind of dovetailing onto that, you're the IT guy. And so you're the guy that understands IT, and you're probably in the boardroom when you're in the boardroom, the expert in that area for compared to a lot of your fellow board members. And then also obviously in your role at Waters. But how do you feel do you feel like you know everything about it, or do you bring in outside consultants to help kind of shore you up? And do you feel like that's okay to do that as an IT director? Because some are a little intimidated that they feel like
Hmm.
I can't bring somebody else in because it makes me appear that I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. No, I think having outside expertise is really key. And I mean, I think, look, I've spent now 25 plus years, maybe more in IT, and I think I've anchored to one thing, a growth mindset, right? My husband's a public school teacher, so he anchored me in the mindset on growth mindset, which is, you're not smart, you're a constant learner. And so this is something I think you have to, if you're working in technology, you have to stay up with what is the changes in OpenAI or what changed with Claude and these various things. So I think having expertise and bringing that in, I also think having the board hear it from someone else other than another director, is really key too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they definitely folks do look at me as the IT expert
Yeah.
on the boards, but it's also important to have if it's outside expertise in preparing on cyber or even AI and the changes there. And I think both boards, ISO and SOMOS, do a really great job in continuing education for the board members to understand how this is changing. And I think it's a really good best practice that we all should adopt.
Uh, Yeah, I love that line. You're not smart, you're a constant learner. That is fantastic. I like that. I wrote it down.
Well, you can thank my husband for that. He
Well, I
he
will,
helped
and
me
I
in
will
this.
credit him when I provide that as guidance and counsel. So,
So one last question, then we'll give you the opportunity if anything you want to throw
Yeah.
in. I am curious, are you are you excited about the possibilities at AI, and at the same time are you nervous about the risk of AI? How are you kind of, combining both of those?
I'll start by saying I am really amazed at the pace. Okay. I mean, so Linda, we all worked in cloud when cloud was
Right.
happening and that
I thought
transformation.
that
That
was such
took,
a big deal.
yeah, right. And it was,
Yeah.
but the pace of change that AI is bringing is really astronomical. And I think we're moving as companies out of a place where this is some place that we're going to explore and we're going to check out to an opportunity on where we're going to work and we're going to put AI agents to do things that a human could do. So I think for me, I think it's just a pace issue is like how do you keep pace to it? And then also how do you give yourself enough grace to say I'm not going to know everything on this and you just have to try to keep pace to it. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for AI, and my hope is, and my vision always has been as a tech leader, we can take friction out of the world, and technology can make it easier to do these things. And I think that's a lot of what we did at HMH in
Yeah.
transforming the education platform to
Right.
really do that for children and make their journey on learning easier and take that friction out of it.
And while you were doing that, at the forefront of all those discussions were how we maintain kids' safety and how we maintain the fact that there had to be security in their data.
Yeah.
So that was a
And
great
privacy, right?
privacy, absolutely. So when you think about it, all the things that companies are worrying about, that little education area right there is a microcosm
Yeah.
of all the things
Yeah.
you have to think about.
You know, we tracked internally in IT how many contracts we were able to win over ahead of our competition because we could articulate our privacy stance, we could articulate our cybersecurity, and we even had, cybersecurity experts on our team join sales calls. And, people respect when you take privacy and security seriously.
Absolutely. So, Catherine, do you have any last comments?
No, other than I could talk forever to you because it's just been so great to catch up. And so thank you so much. It's such a treat. I just we can't let it go so long again till
No,
we chat.
I
So
know, I
Okay,
know.
so
I was,
before I let you go, I have to throw this in. I have to. I can't help myself. So you have to tell people who officiated your wedding.
It was Michelle Obama's campaign manager, chief of staff for her campaign, and so she was also the CF. She was once the CFO of the White House. So the CFO of the White House married the CIO of the White House to his husband.
And I believe
Um,
the president attended. So I thought
yeah.
that was
I
also
got
great.
very nice letters and really great things from both the president and the vice president at the time.
Oh,
Yeah, it
that
was really special.
yeah, that's great.
And I and
um,
I got a dog named after where I got married. So
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I can't tell you, as
yeah,
Catherine said, how great it is to have you with us, and I really appreciate the conversation. And again, your insights are always spot on, so thank you.
no, this was
You-
super fun. And by the way, I was meant to say to you, Jen Shatwell says hi.
Oh, great.
Jen does work for us at she helps me on communications at Waters, and so I was just talking to her, and she said, "Well, please tell Linda I said hi."
Well, I will definitely I appreciate that and tell her I would love to hear from her. It's such a small world. We've all known each other. We all kind of go in the same circles, and it's just amazing how our lives evolve, but we keep touch with the people that we care about. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
wonderful. Well, thank you, and really again appreciate you being here, and thank you to everyone that's listening. Really appreciate everyone tuning in for this particular version and of Cyber Straight Talk, and loved having all of you. And we look forward to our next session, and hopefully you'll join us. So thank you.
thanks. Thank you.